This is Moondrop's new flagship, the Meteocre. The Meteor, and some have been claiming that this is the new successor to the Variations, which is why I bought the Meteors with my own hard-earned cash to kind of give you guys a honest opinion of it, and I'm not just shilling it because I got a free early unit. But let's get into the pros first. So aside from getting my order delayed by 4 months because Moondrop is scared of me, I will say the Meteor is one of the more natural planars that I have heard so far. It's not overly sizzly like the BRAINDAMAGE, and it's not peaky or overly bright like the Wuzitian Legend, and I would even say the timbre is comparable to a custom BA. I wouldn't put this on the same level as the Sonian BAs or the ESTs, but it is well implemented enough to be natural without it sounding artificial, sizzly, and peaky. The vocals on these also sound very clean. They're forward, they have power, they have clarity, and it's very enjoyable on slower songs at mid volume. The Meteor overall is a neutral sound signature with a focus in the female vocals. If you listen at mid volume and you have a lot of ballads, indies, slow bands, stuff like that, the Meteors would be a good fit for your library, and the technical performance is also good. The Meteors don't punch above its weight, but it is for the most part somewhat competitive at its price range. Fit wise, these are on the thicker side. It's not going to fit smaller ears, I don't think so. It has a slight weird curve to it. Just go demo these because the fit is a bit different than the average. Now, as for the downsides, let's first talk about the sound before we get into the price and the configuration, because the Meteocre is overpriced in my opinion, and it should be more around $350, $400 max. Tech wise, these sit at around the same level as the Dusk, which is good technical performance, but for $500 it is not quite Volare level. It's not Oracle Mark III's levels or even EM10 level. I would say the low end is also very tame. Some might even say it's limp, but look, if you don't want that much bass, you would be fine with the amount of low end on the Meteors. Low end separation is good. It's pretty clean. There's no coloring, there's no scoops. You get a little snap to the mid bass, to the low end. It glides nicely into the mid range, and overall it doesn't get in the way of the mids or the vocals or the treble. It's not going to be a low end focus set, but for what it does the job. If you do listen to a lot of rock, hip hop, R&B, pop, EDM, the low end is just going to feel a bit clinical. It's not very engaging, I would say. The slam isn't necessarily there. The authority, the thickness, there's not that much like fullness to the sound. You miss some texture as well from the bass guitars and just the drums because it is more pushed back in the track versus something that is more forward. So because of that, on busier metal and rock tracks, you don't hear the texture on the mid bass and the drums as well. And overall, if you want a more fuller and quote unquote musical sound, the Meteor just doesn't get me going in that way, and you'd be better off with something else. Now, when it comes to the treble, the Meteors are pretty well balanced. It's not dark, it has extension, but if I'm paying $500 plus after tax, I want some more air and micro nuances and details to the sound. It does have good vocals. It's very, neutral. It's very clean. But to me, it doesn't feel very special when it comes to the overall sound. And overall, this to me is more of a side grade to the Dusk than a full-on upgrade. And I think it is a little bit overpriced because of that. In fact, when it comes to K-pop, J-pop, and pop, I would actually take the Dusk over the Meteors because, it is a little bit more sizzly. It's not going to be as natural when it comes to the treble, but at least I'm getting more contrast, more engagement in the sound on the Dusk, which is wild because the Dusk is like a neutral clean set, right? The Dusk also has more low end, which is also wild because it doesn't have that much low end. And treble detail wise, the Dusk also has a little bit more detail, and it has a tamer 1 to 3K region, which is better for like K-pop and J-pop and just like pop in general. Which leads us to some issues in the vocals because Moondrop did boost the 1 to 3K region, which makes it more forward and again enjoyable on slower ballads. But this also means that they're gonna get shouty as a result of boosting the 1 to 3K region. They also don't scale very well, especially when it comes to more energetic tracks. For example, on K-pop and J-pop, past like 60-65 dBs, the vocals just sound a bit too overboosted on your Shika, on Luna. They sound shouty while not having enough balance in the low end, which combined together creates like this clinical kind of like shouty playback. So once you combine the softer low end, the not as airy detailed treble, and the shoutier vocals or more forward vocals, as well as the price tag on top, the value proposition on the Meteocres becomes very questionable because you can really just get the EPZ P50. It's half the price, and the P50 basically fixes all the issues I just mentioned on the Meteor. It has a bit more bass, it's less shouty, it has a bit more treble and air with similar levels of accessories for like $200. More importantly, the Meteor just doesn't make sense price wise because it also does not have ESTs or branded drivers to kind of justify the extra premium upcharge. For example, microplanars and custom BAs are much cheaper than branded and Sony ESTs. So what Moondrop ended up doing is they swapped out the ESTs because they cost more, not because it improves the sound. That is not the case. ESTs are still smoother and more natural, hence the extra premium upcharge. But instead, Moondrop replaced the ESTs with the microplanars in order to just essentially increase their profit margins. They also didn't upgrade the cable or the case either, so accessory wise, you're still stuck with the same ones on the Araya 2 and the Dusk, and in fact the accessories on the Condense is arguably better than the ones on the Meteor. Because again, at that price, I am expecting ESTs. They are much smoother, they have less distortion, they sound more natural than the microplanars, hence the extra premium. Their own IEM, the variation, is much smoother, it's airier, it feels more open, the treble is better extended, it's more detailed when it comes to micro nuances, and you can still get it for like $450 on sale, which is less than the Meteocres. So what Moondrop should have done is just use literally the same components and the same configurations on the variations, fix the scoop, fill in the scoop, lower the 1 to 2K region a bit, change up the design, and boom, you would have an actual great sounding flagship for around the same price as the original variations. And compared to the IO Volare, same thing. The Volare has 4 ESTs. You can get it for around $500 on sale. It's much smoother, it's more natural, it's airier, it's more detailed. The vocals aren't as shouty, and it's overall just the better all-rounder and the more balanced set. The Volare is the better pick objectively because of the components alone, while having better accessories and packaging as well. OJ, but I like vocals, that's why I am getting the Meteor. No. The Oracle Mark 1's still better. It's one of the best vocal IEMs. It has ESTs. It's less shouty, it's more airy, it's more detailed, it's more natural. Similar price. Or you can get the Sophier's RS5. Straight up just better tune if you want more for vocals. Or even the Volume S, which is a fuller version and scales better than the Meteocres. And it's $300. So when you compare the Meteocres to literally anything else outside of itself, it kind of just falls apart, kind of like Moondrop's other IEMs as well. So overall, I would put the Meteocre slightly above the BRAINDAMAGE because the timbre is better. It's not overly sizzly, it's not bright, thin, and it's not artificial when it comes to the the sound. But it is also shoutier now because the vocals are more boosted, and it's not as technical as the BRAINDAMAGE. So it's kind of a trade-off. But overall, because of the timbre, I'm gonna give it a slight edge to the Meteocres. Now, does that mean I recommend it? No, it is overpriced. In my opinion, literally just get the EPZ P50, 2 times less, similar sound, arguably even better sound, and you can thank me later. Or even better, if you're willing to EQ, just get the variations, EQ the scoop, tame down the 1 to 2K, and you have a better version of the Meteors as well. So basically, Moondrop just made a worse version of the variations. And real quick, I want to talk about Moondrop's new flagship as well, the Psyche, or as I like to call it, the Psycho, because whoever actually buys the Psycho might just be a psycho. It's $2,000 with no ESTs or branded drivers. It should not cost more than $1,000 max retail in my opinion, because if you compare it to the Audio Valhalla, for example, the Valhalla has 19 branded BAs for $2,000. Like, both the Meteocre and the Psycho in that regards feels really like a cash grab than anything else. But that aside, I hope this review was helpful. I'm gonna have the P50 review up next, and I'll see you guys soon.
Shout out to Rorik's Cat, Dom Q, Discal Scotus, B Urac, Mystic Spoon Attack, Walker Standard, User, Patrick, Polly J, Mr. Gorillas, Anton Risto, Gis Sang Young, Ed Dunlap, Christopher Jackson, Name, Henry Claudia, Son of a Horse, 777ZK, Ben Thompson, Obi, Treble Well Extended, Wizard, Frickalicious, Andric, Ricardo, Tapas R, Chucko Norris, Oh Really, Contain Guava Juice Gains, Shren Buck Lee, Nico, Igris, and Forever New. Thank you guys so much for the year.